Hello everyone, welcome back to the XSP Green Monster channel. My name is Riley, and today I'm going to be talking about the, 4 tips that I would give to someone who's starting car audio, or I guess someone who's even been in car audio for a little while. I don't think any of these would be extremely helpful to anyone who's been in it for longer than a few years or who has big builds, but I guess some of it might still apply. But yeah, I'm going to give my best to try, and if anyone's watching this who's just kind of getting into this addiction, try and help you understand kind of some of the things that are going to happen and some things that you can do to help your system become better and be better in general. If you enjoy the video, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below if you have anything you'd like to see me do. So, I'm going to get right into it. The first thing that I really want to talk about that I think is a big, I definitely did this when I was starting on my car audio system, and I'll probably put them in here. I had a couple different car audio systems. I had two 10-inch subwoofer car audio system. It was Pioneer 10s on the little Pioneer 4 channel. And I'll kind of put that in right here somewhere. And then I had the Rockford Fosgate P312s in a 6th order bandpass. And then I had my Rockford Fosgate T212s in a slot port. And then I had 4 of them in the exact same slot port. And now I have my DC level 518s. So that's kind of my progression through it, and I definitely made a lot of mistakes, including the first system I ever ran. My wire was ran through the door jamb. So, I've definitely done probably everything you're not supposed to do with the system when I started out. But I've learned, as you can see, my system is much cleaner now. So first thing I want to talk about is when you're starting to think about what you want to get for your system, look at the RMS rating. Now, the RMS rating really means root mean squared. I still don't fully understand the thing. If you really want to understand that, go to DMR Engineering. He explains all of this stuff, but I don't have a firm grasp of this, so that's all I'm going to say is that I don't understand it. I'm not going to try and pretend like I understand what RMS truly means, but I know that it is hypothetically the power that your amplifier subwoofer can handle outputting or taking over a long period of time. Or that's what it should mean in the real world. So you really want to try and match. I'm going to say match. I personally like to overdo a little bit, so I like to have more capability of the amplifier or more capability of the subwoofer than the amplifier can put out, so I can upgrade the amplifier, or it kind of depends on what you're wanting to do. If you're getting started and you know you want a big system eventually but you're not ready for it, then maybe get a big subwoofer, something that's a little bit bigger than your amplifier, so then you have some upgrade room with the amplifier. But if you're really going for power SPL, you do want your amplifier to be more in your subwoofer. Subwoofers output a lot more when they're being pushed way past RMS up towards their peak, although again, never big huge no to look at peak rating. You do not want to go off peak rating. If a company offers a burst rating on a subwoofer, make sure to think about that is only usually a 3-second rating, so the subwoofer can only handle that for 3 seconds. But always look at RMS. When we get back to my main point, you always want to try and match. So you want the RMS from a subwoofer to match the RMS from an amplifier. And really, if the company you're looking at does not offer you an RMS rating for whatever you're buying, you probably shouldn't be buying from that company. That's an important rating to have, and you should really try and match that the best with your amplifier to subwoofer. Realistically, you do want your amplifier to be maybe 25% more than your subwoofer's RMS. So if you have a 300 watt, that doesn't work, 400 watt RMS subwoofer, you want a 500 watt RMS amplifier. That is because due to box rise and other factors that are moderately uncontrollable by you, you're gonna lose some power from the amplifier. Even if that power amplifier is rated for it, you do always lose a lot to box rise. Box rise, it ups your impedance going to the amplifier. It's very it's not like a linear thing where the more powerful you go, the more box rise. It's very dependent on the airspace and cabin gain and so many factors that are very, very difficult to control, including box flex. There's a lot of factors that go into. I can get into box rise some other time, but I would say 25% power increase on your amplifier, and that'd be perfect. So 400 watt subwoofer, get a 500 watt amplifier. Same thing, 1000 watt sub, get a 1200 watt amplifier. About. Just kind of like, give it a little bit more on the amplifier side, on the RMS rating, so you can account a little bit for the box rise. Then you'll be happy with the power you're outputting. The next I'm going to say is, kind of goes along with this, is that you get what you pay for in the car audio world. These big companies, Sundown, DC, Hutchinson Car Audio, Crescendo. Crescendo's actually a pretty well-priced company. DD Audio, B2 Audio, Alford Audio. You're getting what you pay for with those subwoofers. Those subwoofers, those amplifiers can take a beating. And I mean, they can really take a lot before they start to have problems, and they're reconable. That's a big plus with the more expensive subwoofers, is if they do blow, you can just drop in new recones. And they're better made, there's a lot of things to go. But the main point of this is you do get what you pay for in car audio. If you're gonna pay for nicer equipment, you're gonna get a better result from it. That includes the box. Don't forget about the box. I actually didn't have that on my list of stuff that's important, but I'm going to go into that right now. The box for your subwoofer is the most important part. You can put a very, very bad subwoofer in a very, very nice box, and it will sound just as good as a very good subwoofer in a very bad box. So remember that. The box is one of the most important parts of a system. You want the box for your subwoofer to be very well made. Don't get the prefabs if you're really like... Obviously, I started with prefabs. A lot of people start with prefabs. If you want to get into it, you're kind of testing the water. If you like it, go ahead, go with a prefab. But understand that one of the first upgrades you should do is getting a custom box. If you feel comfortable building a custom box, and build a custom box yourself. I still build custom boxes. I built everything in my vehicle, or paid to get a custom box done. But that will drastically improve it. On the same power, same subwoofer, a custom box will drastically improve your output and your sound quality. So that kind of covers both those subjects, which one I didn't end up thinking I was going to cover, but completely forgot about that one. But yeah, money, you do get what you pay for in car audio. It's as simple as that. The more you pay for something, the better quality it's going to be in general. Obviously, there are some companies that try and scam you of stuff. There are some companies that just are a little overpriced. But do your research. In general, in the car audio community, you get what you pay for. That's kind of the end of it there. Size of subs is my next topic that I want to cover, and that is important, obviously, because I started out with 10s just because, I was like, well, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this. Started out with some 10s, started with something small, went to 12s, and I was like, I really like the look of 18, so I slowly built up to getting my 18s. So I didn't really fall victim to this try and put the biggest possible thing in your car as you can first time off. I actually kind of moved up into 18s. But you do want to double check with all the air spaces that the subwoofers need off their spec sheets, and make sure that you have the space to put those subwoofers. You don't want to try and stuff 8 subwoofers in the trunk of a Mustang. It's not going to work. Or at least like 8 12-inch subwoofers in the trunk of a Mustang. There might be a way to make it work, but it's going to be very difficult and very expensive. So make sure that you are looking up and seeing how much airspace. And don't just look up the airspace of your car, because that's like every nook and cranny. You want to measure it out and calculate the airspace that you actually have. It's not that hard. Length times base times height. Everyone can do that. You can do that pen and paper, simple algebra. So calculate it yourself. It's worth it. It will save you a lot of trouble later down the road, so you don't end up with too big of a subwoofer and too small of a box and it sounds terrible and you think that you wasted your money on something when you didn't. It's the wrong size subwoofer. And sometimes a 12 is better than an 18. If you can fit 312s over 118, the 312s could be louder and could sound better than the 118, even though the 18 is bigger. Bigger doesn't mean louder. I mean, a very good point of that is I'm doing a 148 in my car right now with two 18s in the C-pillar wall, flat wall. It is a flat wall. But I have a friend who's in a fourth order with 412s, and he's doing about 2 decibels louder than me. He's doing about 150 right now. So, and it's the same thing. C-pillar on not too much, and actually on less power than me. Almost half the power is mine. So, more power and more cone area does not always mean louder. It has to do with where you tune. It has to do with a whole ton of stuff. So don't always think that bigger sub means it's louder. Bigger subs, personally, I just think bigger subs look cooler. I like the look of a big 18. I think it looks badass. I really enjoy it. So that's why I went with 18s. I just really enjoy the look of them. And I'm going more for a demo monster, so to say, more than a high numbers car. So I mean, doing a 150 at 20 hertz is fine for me at 25 hertz, which is still quite an accomplishment. I haven't hit that yet, but you know, I'll upgrade to that, but that's my plans for the truck. I'm not looking for 160s at 60 hertz. I'm looking to go low. So it depends on the build you want, and that's kind of the big thing. It's it's hard to have an SPL car and a demo car, so you do want to think about that if you really want to get deeper into car audio and start going through this, which is kind of lead into my last point. But you want to think about what you want to build for, because I mean, yeah, you can still, every subwoofer you have the capability to do crazy things with. You can still do hair tricks with 6.5-inch subwoofers if you want. You can do hair tricks with 118 in the right car if you want on enough power. So it really has to do with a lot of factors. So you gotta do your research. There's a way to do something with everything, basically. So again, the size of the subwoofer is, you can do whatever you want with basically any subwoofer. I have seen every build from the big Alford 32s down to the 6.5-inch subs that are in Bizquick. So they're in Ronnie Smith's Bizquick. So I mean, you can do basically anything with any size sub. You don't need to worry about having the biggest and baddest. Obviously, if you're like me and you just like the look of a bigger sub, then go with a bigger sub. Try and make it work. But if you're just trying to get loud, you can get loud on any size subwoofer. And really a big factor of that is cone area. And sometimes having a smaller sub means you have more cone area in total. So, next thing I'm going to get into is the money pit of car audio. And this comes down to when you start to get a little bit more serious. Throwing a 1,000-watt system in a car is, you know, you don't start to see a lot of the issues, I'd say. If you're going for like 1,000 watts, you probably haven't upgraded your battery, you're probably not doing alternators yet. You really can run it, you could get away with it on 4 gauge. I'm doing 4 gauge on the Emmy's 1,000-watt build right now, so you could still get away with it on 4 gauge. But it's when you start getting into the 5, 6, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 watt range. Something that I've always lived by, especially with my car audio system, is to be overbuilt. I know that parts of my car audio system is a lot more than what I need for my system, and that's why my voltage can be so good when I'm demoing. If I'm revving the engine at 2K, I can see 0 voltage drop on some songs at the amplifier. So that obviously depends on the song, what frequency I'm playing at, the impedance rise, how hard the amplifier is working, but I can see no voltage drop on full bore at certain frequencies. So that's something I've always kind of lived by. If you choose to go that route, I think it's a good route to go. It is a more expensive route to go, obviously, because you're building everything bigger than it needs to be, so it is more expensive. But this gets still back to the point of car audio becomes a money pit, because once you start hitting those higher levels of power, you're going to realize you start needing an alternator, you start needing 2 alternators, you start needing 4 runs of 1/0, which is a lot of 1/0. I mean, spools of 1/0 are $130 to $200 for a 50-foot spool. I think I have over 300 feet of 1/0 in my car, and my build is not by any means a crazy build. I mean, it's loud and it's fun, but it is not loud when it's sat next to cars like Mickey Dials and the big ones, any of the shitting on them cars, all sort of John Rabe's vehicles, I mean Excess Power's vehicles, like is by no means a loud car in the car audio community. It's a fun car and I enjoy it, but it's not loud. Maybe one day if I go to 418s, it will be at that level in the mid 150s and the low 60s, but right now it is not a loud car in the car audio world. So that's to give you an idea. Like you can go this once you get into these big number builds, these high power builds, so to say. Mine's still low power at 7,000 watts, but you start needing a lot more. You need extra batteries. I have 6 batteries in my car. You need multiple amplifiers. You need bigger subs. They need more airspace. Generally, you're looking at, and then you get into other problems that when you get weight in your vehicle, these are things a lot of people I think don't talk about. You start putting weight in your vehicle, it puts stress on your transmission, you put stress on your U-joints, on your axles, on your drivetrain. I mean, I have helper springs in my truck. I've gone through 3 transmissions in the truck. Like, you really fall into a money pit here where it builds and builds and builds on itself, because soon you get a new amplifier, you're like, oh, well, the voltage is going out, so you get new batteries. It's like, hey, that helped, but I still need more. So you get a cap bank, helped, but you still need more because the alternators are charging. I have to get a new alternator. It's like, oh, well, I have new alternators, so I'll get new subs. Oh, well, I can get a new amplifier to power those subs. Bigger amplifier, more batteries. It builds and builds and builds and builds. And you start to get to the point where you're just throwing money at it because you start to cause problems. I mean, there's a point where you just start shaking things apart. I have broken door handles on the truck right now. All sorts of stuff. So you really it's a big thing. Like you have to, before you jump into getting like a 5,000 watt amplifier, if you haven't done any big 3 battery upgrades, alternator upgrades, like you really need to think about that. That's something you will need to do. I'm gonna stop talking about this because I will talk about this for an extremely long time if I keep going. And I know I probably have already talked for too long. So if you enjoyed the video, again, please give it a big thumbs up. I hope this helped if you're kind of new to car audio and you're looking to get started. If you haven't, please subscribe already. I'm trying to post every 2 days-ish, so hopefully that works out. And please leave a comment if there's any video you'd like me to see. I'll see you on the next one.